evening. A warm welcome. I'm Rhoda Obo, sitting in for your regular host, Aisha Bello Mustafa. Tonight, 2 new private universities get approval to come on stream. 2 new federal commissioners come on board to fill existing vacancies in government organization. President-elect solicits the support of incoming members of the National Assembly just as he inaugurates his transition committee. From Adamawa State, the drama in the State House of Assembly is still playing out, with the main question being, is Amadu Fintiri the Speaker or not? Well, we'll bring you the latest details. Also tonight, remembering the philosophy of late statesman Aminu Kano. Come with me as I take you through the day's major happenings on News Extra. 2 new universities have been approved by the federal government as the Federal Executive Council warned the incoming administration from running a parallel government. These are some of the decisions taken by the council at the sitting. State House correspondent Shegun Lawole reports.
The council, chaired by President Jonathan, with Vice President and most cabinet members in attendance, agree that the transition process is on course, as almost all MDAs have submitted their briefs and handover notes. But the council frowned at most of the statements from the incoming administration's transition committee in what looks like stampeding the present administration.
We did receive from the incoming government transition committee some terms of reference which we look at critically, and council did agree that the Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan remained the current government of this country. The incoming government should avoid creating a parallel government while the government is still on. We take exception to some utterances, to some of the terms of reference that look as if the current government is being stampeded or intimidated. Council found at most of the statements, most of the provisions, and council members are advised to work in line with the terms of reference of the current government.
The chairman of the 2 transition committees are reported to be exchanging notes and still holding talks.
Magnanimity of Mr. President should not be taken to be cowardice, and that is why Mr. President and indeed council member enjoin Nigerian people to see the olive branch extended to Nigerians and to the international community as a way of keeping this country intact, as a way of ensuring peace in Nigeria.
The council also discussed the ongoing fuel scarcity, as government is ready to put to rest all logistics problems therein.
We have a problem with the lifters, the tanker drivers, and I think the union, they will have that problem. And it borders on non-payment. From tomorrow, the minister, the coordinating minister for finance, is going to start paying some of the liabilities we have in that sector.
2 private universities have been approved by the council. They are Edwin Clark University, Delta State, and Ezekiel University, Umude, Imo State.
The council will have NUC to give reason why they think the universities, these 2 universities merit being approved.
On the ongoing traffic light project in the Federal Capital Territory, alleged to be part of the last-minute rush by the outgoing administration, FCT Minister Bala Mohammed says the project was conceptualized in 2012 in collaboration with the government of China. China, the minister noted, is contributing 780 million naira to the project, while FCT is contributing a counterpart funding of 81 million naira purely for supervision.
And we believe as a government we should continue to take every project and program to a logical conclusion. It is not true, it is deceptive, and it is misleading for anybody to think that something that we are getting as a collaborative or multilateral assistance is something that is conceptualized as a last bit of a project for us to go away with.
In the State House, Shegulawole, NTA News.
Meanwhile, 2 new federal commissioners have been appointed by President Jonathan as his administration winds to a close to fill the vacancies in the Federal Civil Service Commission and the Federal Character Commission. Again, here's Shegun Lawole.
At the Federal Executive Council meeting, President Jonathan sworn in Ambassador Toye Olofi Tui from Ekiti State as a new Commissioner, Federal Civil Service Commission, and Ambassador Abdullahi Shinkafi from Zamfara State as Commissioner, Federal Character Commission. President Jonathan, although described the commissions as critical to the stability of the country, expressed reservations on the Federal Character Commission's inactivity over the years.
The Federal Character Commission really need to wake up and make themselves relevant to this country. And then the civil service has, for some time now, they have improved significantly in terms of the way they handle things and the number of quiet place. I believe the same thing will go for the Federal Character Commission very soon.
The President promised that the vacant seat of the Chairman Federal Character Commission will soon be filled. In the State House, Shegulawole, NTA News.
In the meantime, a 19-man transition committee has been formally inaugurated by Nigeria's President-elect, General Muhammadu Buhari. Correspondent Ismail Musa, who covered the ceremony, reports that the committee has been added by Hamad Joda as chairman.
The mandate of the committee, whose members were drawn from the 6 geopolitical zones, include liaising with a similar committee set up by the federal government, as well as studying handover notes preparatory to the 29th May inauguration. Inaugurating the committee with Dr. Deo Salami as secretary, Nigeria's President-elect General Muhammadu Buhari said the committee is not aimed at witch hunting anybody.
The change from one government to another always involves complicated operational challenges. We all know that government is a continuum, but the incoming government needs to know where the previous government stopped so that it can know where to continue. Luckily, we are all outstanding men and women of competence and experience in different fields, so that this assignment, well as though it is well within our ability to accomplish. We are required to assess the information provided to you and advise me on its quality and accuracy.
In his acceptance speech, the chairman of the committee said, considering the wealth of knowledge and experience of his members, they will justify the confidence reposed on them.
The terms of reference are very wide. The main one being that we should receive a presentation from the outgoing government, study them, and discuss them and make our recommendations to the incoming government.
The 19-man committee has 2 weeks to submit its report. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Now let's take a look at some legislative matters. The President-elect General Muhammadu Buhari has solicited the support of the incoming members of the National Assembly to be on the battlefront with him as warriors of change in the task of bringing integrity into governance. General Buhari, who addressed members as part of their induction program, enumerated the challenges of insecurity, endemic corruption, poor power supply, joblessness and environmental degradation in the Niger Delta areas as part of his mission. Adamu Sambo report.
Described the legislature as a critical component and necessary ingredient of democracy and development without mincing words, promised to commit himself to working closely with the speakers as partners motivated by the desire to deliver governance. General who acknowledged the serious challenges of development confronting Nigeria, said his mission to serve with integrity would better succeed if complemented with a strong culture of transparent oversight by the legislature. He solicited for collaborative efforts on budget process, structuring of the public sector, redressing the power sector deficit, encouraging investment for job creation and human development, as well as conflict resolution and peace building across the country.
I'm here today to invite you to work with the executive as partners in progress, as champions of good governance and development, and as warriors for change. Together, we can make this nation great, and as a role model in Africa and other emerging economies and democracies.
It is a historic day in the journey of democracy in this country. Historic in the sense that it is the first time a president-elect is addressing senators and members-elect.
Some of the incoming lawmakers described the address by the president-elect as thought-provoking.
What we have seen today is a sign that we are on the path of hope with a rekindled optimism. And there is every indication that light has come to the end of the tunnel.
I believe that the 8th Assembly will do everything humanly possible to cooperate with him to drive this nation to prosperity.
This nation needs change. As change has come,
he solicited for your support and cooperation.
He already have it. That is our work, and we are supposed to do it.
The kind of change he's expecting, we will give him the opportunity that this change should be made.
We believe the wishes of Nigerians will come to reality.
General Buhari for you, wherever he is. He talks of transparency.
It shows that Buhari is willing and ready to carry us along.
The induction program continues. In Abuja, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, newly elected senators and members of the National Assembly to be inaugurated in June have been speaking on the leadership they desire and the composition of the 8th National Assembly. The legislators-elect observed that the new leadership should reflect experience, professional capacity, and Nigeria's geopolitical spread. National Assembly correspondent Ifeanyi Okafor reports on this and other issues on Day 4 of the induction certificate course for newly elected legislators.
A greater part of the session was, however, spent discussing issues of who, how, and what are the requirements for principal officers for the incoming 8th Assembly.
People who have done so much over the years in appointed positions and elected positions, all these, I think, should be part of the considerations. I'm not saying that we are here to look for position. We are only here to contribute.
Resource persons dwelt on the functions of committees, their powers, as well as challenges of funding inadequate facilities to effectively discharge legislative functions.
We must understand the process of preparing bills which metamorphose eventually into acts of parliament.
Senator George Thompson Sekibo, Chairman Senate Committee on Defense and Army, presented the paper in the session chaired by the Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Emeka Ide.
We're sorry for the poor quality of that report. Now, Coalition of Southeast Buhari Oshibajo campaign movement wants the composition of Speaker, House of Representatives, Zone 2, the Southeast. National coordinator of the group, John Okenwanyu, says the request is to fill the gap for the key leadership position that exists in other geopolitical zones except in the Northeast and the Southwest, which already have the President and the Vice President-elect. Salihu Abdullahi has the report.
Its request is based on the enormous contributions by the people of the zone during the political activities that brought about the desired political change in the country.
We state categorically that it will be against natural justice, equity, fair play, and principle of federal character for the North to keep the presidency, the Senate President, and at the same time, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
It is also of the opinion that through appropriate allocation of important political leadership positions, the incoming APC government will enjoy the cooperation of all, regardless of political affiliation.
So there are 4 zones left for political position in the hierarchy of Nigerian political system. The APC leadership, in their wisdom, should decide wisely so that no zone will be left out.
As a matter of house rule, they appeal to the leadership of the All Progressive Congress to consider an Igbo man from Imo State for the position of Speaker, House of Representatives for the 8th National Assembly. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
Still staying with legislative matters, following the insecurity challenges that have impacted negatively on the social-economic development of the northeastern states of the country, there have been appeals for the Senate presidency slot to be zoned to the region. Musa Babali reports that Justice and Development Consultative Forum joins in the appeal.
One of the priorities of the incoming APC administration is to liberate the northeastern states from activities of insurgents and reconstruction of destroyed infrastructure and economic activities. This, as stated by stakeholders, can be achieved only with the support of National Assembly and the affected state governors. It is in view of this that they are appealing for the APC to recognize the situation in the northeast and zone the office of the Senate President or that of Deputy to the region.
Since 1979 to 2007, the office of the Deputy Senate President has been occupied by the North Central states. The same zone still occupied the seat of the Senate President from 2007 till date.
For reconstruction, for rehabilitation, for resettlement of the Northeast is now. And we want our son to be part of the top decision making.
The group says it will continue to lobby the leadership of the APC to achieve its goals. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Now to some other matters. The Pan-African Regional Parliamentary Meeting for the Promotion of Ratification, Domestication and Implementation of African Union legal instruments has been held in Abuja. The meeting expects to identify the challenges and foster ways of implementing ratified treaties and charters within member states of West African sub-region. National Assembly correspondent Kenneth Nani reports.
The unimplementation of many declarations, charters and legal instruments containing Africa's determination for more information and news of sustained political reforms, stability and development on the continent appears to be the major concern at the regional parliamentary meeting. President Pan-African Parliament, Nigeria's Betel Amadi, and other parliamentarians commended the peaceful and successful conduct of the general elections in Nigeria and also condemned the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. They called on member states to formulate people-oriented policies that would protect the rights of individuals, especially women, promote peace and unity, good governance and development in Africa.
Will allow fellow parliamentarians and other critical stakeholders to review and reflect on some of the core issues that threaten democracy and good governance on our continent, and engage on how best our various regions can be carried along in the campaign to address these challenges. Until we domesticate these texts, until we operationalize them, we'll find it difficult to deal with these issues.
Nigeria is inherently Pan-African in its action and inspiration.
We are confident that the universal ratification of the shared values instruments, alongside their domestication and implementation, will further guarantee the attainment of the aspirations of the Union as set out in the Agenda 2063.
It is indeed regrettable and worrisome that treaties adopted under the aegis of the OAU, which by definition address issues of specific concern to Africa, have not been given the opportunity, utmost priority, attention, and commitment that it deserves by the AU member states.
The member states of the Pan-African Parliament are of the opinion that ratification, domestication and implementation of African Union legal instruments will contain the issues of terrorism, piracy, xenophobic attacks and other social problems in the African continent. From the ECOWAS Parliament in Abuja, Kenneth Nanem, NTA News.
Now, the Hungarian ambassador to Nigeria, Professor Gabor Tanak, says his country will support Nigeria in the areas of health and educational development. The ambassador who stated this was on a congratulatory visit to Nigeria's President-elect General Muhammadu Buhari. Correspondent Ismail Musa has details and other engagements at the Defense House.
The Hungarian envoy, who is among other ambassadors that met Nigerian President-elect General Muhammadu Buhari behind cameras, told journalists that his country will share knowledge with Nigerians to facilitate infrastructural development.
And I offered our cooperation on different fields which are very important for Nigeria, in the field of health education.
On his part, Turkish ambassador to Nigeria said Turkey will expand bilateral ties in the area of agricultural development and defense.
Nigeria set a very good example to the world, to Africa. This election was conducted very well. Your electronic system was a success, and we are hoping that it will be better and better in the future.
Other visitors include Nigeria's former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who called on Nigerians to see change as a gradual process.
I think the public needs to know, just as the President said, changes will not occur overnight. They will be gradual. But definitely there will be changes and positive changes for that matter. It's not going to be boom overnight.
In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
We turn our attention now to security. The Acting Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, has unveiled a 5-point strategic plan to restore the dignity and public confidence in the police. He disclosed this at his inaugural meeting with the Assistant Inspector General and State Commissioners of Police at the Force Headquarters, Abuja. Correspondent Adino Justice brings us the details of the Acting IGP's first conference.
Set to serve as an interaction between the police management team and the field officers to evaluate their performances, especially the last supplementary elections, provided the right avenue for the acting IGP to roll out his policy thrusts. Among the 5 cardinal thrusts, according to the IGP, are tackling corruption in the police force, human right-driven policing, and intelligence-led investigation and community partnership. Others are fast-tracking of trials and engagement of cutting-edge technology in policing.
It is now a matter of choice. For the serving police officer, a choice between national service, which should be duly rewarded, and corruption, which should be swiftly sanctioned. In launching the NPF into a technological-driven policing world, emphasis will be on crime scene, establishment of state-of-the-art national forensic support centers.
While announcing the reopening of the Nigerian Police Intelligence School, Enugu, the acting IGP said the Judges Protection Unit will be reconstituted to give maximum security to the administration of justice.
Any nation desirous of justice owes its magistrate, judges, and justices the sacred obligation of protection.
The Acting Inspector General of Police has once more assured the nation that he will deploy both his professional and intellectual assets in providing quality leadership to the police force. Well, like they say, time will tell. From the Force Headquarters, Abuja, Adino Justice, NTA News.
To restore dignity and confidence in the Nigerian police, Acting Inspector General of Police sets out 5-point strategies. Political philosophy of late elder statesman Aminu Kano brought to the fore, plus the latest feat by the Nigerian Army. Stay with us for details of these and more on News Extra. Welcome back. You're still watching News Extra on the network service of the NTA. The Federal Executive Council says the suspension of the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is due to the poor management of diplomacy as full-scale investigation into the matter has commenced. Correspondent Shegun Lawale has details.
The call of the Nigerian envoy in South Africa over xenophobic attack was also discussed by the council. Although the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs, has already been suspended over the diplomatic lapses by the ministry in recent past.
Investigation is still on as to the management of diplomacy at that level between Nigeria and South Africa. I want to assure you from the President's revelation that our President and President Zuma of South Africa, they are talking, they are in talking terms, and the various nagging issues that give a semblance of fiscal between the two nations has been resolved.
Beginning with the phone call to the King of Morocco, or no phone call. And I think it is in line with that the president has now welded the big stick.
The federal government also frowned at the execution of Nigerians by the Indonesian government for drug-related offenses.
So we do not agree with what Indonesia did, just like any other person. And we also seize this opportunity to advise Nigerians traveling abroad that these countries made it clear when they stamp your passport, it's there in red. Penalty for drug carrying is death. Please, let us beware. Let us respect. That is their law.
In the State House, Segun Lawole, NTA News.
Now, experts on international relations are calling for an end to xenophobic attacks in South Africa and compensation for victims. Talatu Ezerike reports that they were speaking on NTA's Current Affairs program Tuesday Live.
The discussant corrected certain misgivings that poverty, scarcity of resources, or even the abandoning of South Africa as possible causes for the xenophobic attacks. This, they say, is not so, as countries like Nigeria stood with South Africa all the way, even after the post-apartheid, which it did not for economic gains, but for the promotion of brotherhood in Africa. They therefore want AU leaders at the forthcoming 25th summit in June in Johannesburg to tackle this ill, which is likely to reoccur.
I have a strong feeling that next time it happens, it's not just going to be a question of attacking South Africa and come this year. I guess that another group will come up to say, listen, a number of companies from South Africa make a lot of money in this country. Nigerians are not even shareholders in this company. Take all these companies, put them on the stock exchange so that we can, be part owners of this company.
We have a problem as Africans, all of us. Sometimes these tensions come as a result of you see it as religious tensions. But if you check beneath, it is because of the scarcity of resources and poverty.
All the speakers added their voices.
If you do not deter, then you must expect continuity. I have noted from research that xenophobia in South Africa has a recidivist character.
When you now end the formal apartheid, did Africa follow up to say, what do we do to clean out the damage that was done, that was deposited?
The discussant called for a rethink by those instigating the youth to foment violence and to emulate Nelson Mandela's commitment to African unity. Talat Ezerike, NTA News.
In the meantime, members of Adamawa State House of Assembly say Amadu Umaru Fintiri is still the Speaker of the House. The member stated this at a plenary presided by him against the backdrop of Tuesday's report that the Speaker and his deputy were impeached by some members. Correspondent Tafawa Hamza Mayo reports that 6 of them have threatened court action over forgery of their signatures.
Of recent, Adamawa State House of Assembly has been engulfed in leadership tussle, where 17 out of the 25 members are said to have signed for the removal of Fintiri as the Speaker of the House and elected Jerry Kundisi as the new Speaker. 9 out of the alleged 17-member faction who sat at the Government House Eola said Fintiri is leading the House with high-handedness and irregularities, hence their decision. Following their action, the remaining members of the House who sat at the Adamawa State House of Assembly Complex Eola, with Fintiri presiding, said Fintiri is in charge and described the faction as fake and distanced themselves from them. Speaking at a plenary, Amadu Umaru Fintiri said everything is going on smoothly and called on the Kundisi-led faction to order.
Impeachment in the House of Assembly is constitutional, but there has to be rules and regulations that are followed. If today they come here and sit and they have the 17 members seated here and they've signed impeachment, definitely we have to give way.
On the House crisis, Seats of 3 members of the House were declared vacant by Speaker Ahmadu Umaru Fintri following their defection from PDP to PDM. Fintri said members from Tongo, Nasarawa Binyeri and Jada Bulu's seats have been declared vacant as stipulated by law. In order to restore normalcy to the House, Speaker Ahmadu Umaru Fintri constituted a 5-man ad hoc committee to investigate the 9 members of the House faction and report back on Monday for further action. In Yola, Tafawa, Hamza Mayo, NTA News.
The struggle for the emancipation of the downtrodden was what made late Malam Aminu Kano a famous player in Nigeria's political arena. 32 years after his death, the political icon is still being remembered and respected by Nigerians. Correspondent Abdullahi Aminu has a report on a memorial lecture held in honor of the late sage.
Born in 1920, late Malam Aminu Kano, a school teacher turned politician, was in the 1950s leader of the defunct Northern Elements Progressive Union, NEPU. The social mobilizing policy of the late legend provided fiscal system against heavy taxation in the defunct northern region and liberation of women folks from illiteracy and feudalistic practices, among others. Center for Democratic Research and Training of Bayero University, Kano, was established in honor of his laudable political philosophy, which serves towards providing sustainable and successful democracy in Nigeria. The 32nd Remembrance Lecture of the icon centers on the role of institutions in determining proper democratic principles, challenge of politicians on how to achieve good governance, and process of redefining Nigerian democracy.
Leader of Nigeria who started the process of redefining politics. He used to be a man of the people, and he listens to everybody. To emulate the struggle, the resistance, and the passion, and the sacrifice made by Malam Aminu Kano, not for himself, but for his country and his society. We meet here today to remember him and give due respect and consideration for all the efforts and the struggles that he has put over the years.
Malam Aminu Kano was also a presidential candidate under the People's Redemption Party (PRP) with a major political ideology which broke up the ethnically based politics in the country. Late Malam Aminu Kano died in the early morning of Sunday, April 17, 1983, according to his wife, Shetu Aminu Kano. Recognized as highly respected politician, late Malam Aminu Kano, most people said, will continue to symbolize democratization in Nigeria and beyond. In Kano, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
There appears to be a clear increase in the advocacy for the continuation of the presidential amnesty program as a measure to sustain the peace and stability of the Niger Delta region. This current crusade is being championed by the administrator of the program, the special advisor to the president on Niger Delta, Kingsley Kuku. Namdi Odigbo tells us more.
Parts of an index of changed times in the previously crisis-ridden region, and incidentally the current subject of much debate in certain circles. By December 31st, 2015, the Presidential Amnesty Program would have completed the 5-year time frame originally set for it in 2011. Of course, before then, many of the delegates participating in the program would like to know what happens by the end of the year. A total of 30,000 delegates are currently engaged in the program, some in formal trainings, others in the informal sector. And while some may have completed their trainings, many others are expected to do so in the coming months.
Funding and budgeting for the program and its execution over time has created a process where clearly every discerning voice or mind would know that 2015 December, the amnesty program would have merely succeeded in training and reintegrating about 20 to 21,000 people. What are we going to do to the 9,000 lives that will be remaining?
Kuku believes continuation is key to maintaining the peace and stability in the Niger Delta which has sustained the growth and development of the nation's oil sector.
We are peace-loving people, we are hospitalizing people, and so when a situation like that occurs, our duty is to call our people and ensure that we continuously maintain that peace in the spirit of the outgoing president.
By the year's end, it will be interesting to know what will become of the presidential amnesty program. In Abuja, Nnamdi Ojigbo, NTA News.
And following the call for the liberation of all communities in the northeast from Boko Haram, some of the internally displaced persons are heeding the call to go back to their homes. Defense correspondent Muhammad Abdul Kadri was at the Jabi Motor Park, Abuja, to monitor the movement of some IDPs.
It started with us, and God has seen us through, so we have no problem. Glad and very happy, excited.
Daniel Michelia, like other returnees, have put their plight on the list of insurgent activities that forced them to flee from their homes behind them and ready to go on with life.
I know we fear. God is there. No problem in Maiduguri now. Maiduguri is very better now.
They said the confidence and courage to return to base is strengthened by the good news of total liberation of their communities.
Those displaced by Boko Haram, yes, and numbers of them have been going back.
Transporters said before now they are almost frustrated out of business for what they described as drought of passengers.
Going back, we have already loaded more than 5 buses now. Before, we are not even loading one vehicle.
All of them are going back to their destination. From Goza, Marte, Bagan, Mangono, Gamborengala, all of them are going back safely.
Government-owned vehicles are subsidized as transport fare are discounted by 50%, put at 3,500 naira, while private-owned vehicles charge double that amount for passengers traveling to Maiduguri. With the increasing number of people traveling back to their various communities in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa states, the transporters plying the northeast axis are making a good deal of business, smiling to the banks. From Jabi Motor Park, Abuja, Muhammad Abdul Kadri, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the people of Ibadan are commending the gallantry of the Nigerian troop over the rescue of about 300 girls and women from the terrorists in Borno State. Correspondent Adiola Ogunlana has the report.
It will be remembered that since 14th of April 2014, about 300 schoolgirls were adopted by Boko Haram terrorist group from Government Girls Secondary School Chibok in Borno State. It's a year and 15 days now the Nigerian troops stormed the Sambisa forest and rescued about 300 women and girls. And the Nigerian military had confirmed the rescue of 200 girls and 93 women in different camps in the forest. Students and parents in Ibadan enjoined the military and government to intensify the hit on the insurgents to rid the country of terrorism.
And we have seen a lot of things which they will have been traumatized.
You really know what they are doing. They're suffering right now.
It's painful. I can imagine if any of those children were to be my daughter or my daughters.
The government should see to their release very soon, so that their parents can have joy. The joy of motherhood is very, very important.
Some residents in Ibadan lauded the Nigerian troops for the achievement.
Even if they are not part of the Chibok girls, the fact is that for those 300, whatever the figure is now, is that at least we have brought back some 300 persons who were held captives before.
If it is not well with one Nigerian child, then it cannot be well with all of us. And since it is not well with these children and their families, it cannot be well with Nigeria. We can't wish those children away.
Nigerians are calling on the military to hasten up their investigations while suggesting a collaboration with the parents of the Chibok girls for identification of the rescued girls. In Ibadan, Adebola Ogolano, NTA News.
Up ahead, X-ray of business environment and an update on the fuel situation in Abuja. Join us again. Been there. Now talking business, Nigeria's non-oil export received boost as the American Association of Laboratories accreditation certifies 2 Nigerian food laboratories. Abechi Piers and Business News segment takes a look at the non-oil export market.
Glad to have you join us on Business News. My name is Amechi Pius. The prevailing economic reality occasioned by the dwindling oil price at the international market has made it imperative for Nigeria to develop the non-oil sector. Business News takes a look at the non-oil exports with special focus on agro-allied products. There is no doubt that the nation's agricultural sector has witnessed significant growth in the last 4 years. Apart from creating wealth and job opportunities, the sector has contributed immensely to the nation's GDP. However, exports from the sector have continued to suffer rejection at the global market, with exporters losing millions of naira. A World Bank report estimates that developing countries will lose about $6.9 billion in 2015 from rejections at the international market.
Nigeria, the giant of Africa, the #1 economy in Africa, have to export its product through Ghana.
These products were rejected based on non-conformity to basic food safety and hygiene requirements, such as high level of pesticide residue, mycotoxins, amongst others.
Before now, Nigerians paid about 10% of the value of their consignment abroad. This lab will charge less than 1% of the value of any export a Nigerian wants to make.
The accreditation of 2 of the Standards Organization of Nigeria food laboratories recently, operators believe, will address the various barriers to trade between Nigeria and other countries all over the world. Stockbrokers and other players involved in the exchange of securities will no longer be able to trade unlisted securities outside the recognized platform. And this is because the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has introduced 6 new rules, one of which nullifies the sale of unlisted securities through other means not recognized by the regulatory body. Abdullah Mohammed reports.
Before the introduction of the new rule, unlisted securities were traded through several means not accountable to the sector's regulatory body and also at unknown price to the investor. This practice has over the years exposed the transactions of unlisted securities to various kinds of manipulations.
Hitherto what we had is a market, we had a kind of a, so to speak, that have been thriving, I don't want to call it a black market, for decades.
The implication is that the size and scope of secondary markets like the OTC NASD will change and transparency is improved in the markets.
So any public security that is not traded on the Nigerian Stock Exchange now must trade through an OTC market, and NASD is one of those markets. So we're bringing it to investors' notice that from now on they have to trade on one of the trading platforms that exist in the country.
And that's Business News. Thanks for watching. The news continues shortly. Good evening.
In the meantime, President Goodluck Jonathan has approved the appointment of Alhaji Sanusi Lamido Ado-Bayero as the Managing Director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, NPA. Alhaji Sanusi, a lawyer from Kano State, takes over from Malam Habib Abdullahi, who's been relieved of his appointment. The appointment takes effect from tomorrow, April 30th. Now, despite assurances of a healthy national petrol stock by the NNPC, Nigerians may still have to go a few more days without easy access to petrol across the country. Energy correspondent Hawa Saliu Abdullah Adama, who has been monitoring the full availability in Abuja, reports that the situation is a direct outcome of down-tooling by members of the National Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO.
A common sight in almost every fuel station in Abuja city center this Wednesday. Though hopeful motorists continue the long wait, the stations remain shut, the nozzles idle, while black marketers of the product enjoy a field day.
Since there is no fuel in the filling station, we have to buy black market so that we continue our business.
We don't want this thing to continue.
Madam, we are not happy because Boko Haram was coming here.
Majority of us were students.
The next move was to go for answers, and naturally, the NATO office was the destination.
We have a haulage contract with the major marketers. We have deals with them, our transport fares, transport rates they are supposed to pay for transportation of petroleum products, running into about 20 billion naira. So having exhausted all avenues to make sure that we are paid this money,
And having also given them an ultimatum, we are left with no other option than to withdraw our services.
To get a clearer picture, the only option was a telephone conversation with the Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria, based in Lagos. Mr. Sunday Olawore, Executive Secretary, Major Oil Marketers Association of Nigeria. We understand from the National Association of Road Transport Owners that Moman is owing them the sum of about 20 billion naira, and that is why they have decided to down tool. In other words, stop lifting petroleum products, specifically petrol, across Nigeria. How true is this allegation?
That is a statement of fact. We are owing them, and our inability to pay is hinged on lack of funds, which is also hinged on the fact that we have a large sum of money outstanding, which we are expecting from the federal government, 354 billion naira. We are expecting that federal government will pay a very large chunk of this outstanding. If we are giving about 80 to 85% of this 354 billion, then we will have enough money to pay them and pay other contractors.
And as Nigerians across the country await the resolution of payment between NATO and Moman, these hawkers, who most of our respondents have described as the new marketers of petrol on the block, may be the only reliable option for now. In Abuja, I am Hawa Salihu Adama, NTA News.
Dangote Cement PLC is fast realizing its aspirations of becoming a truly pan-African manufacturer and distributor of cement. This is evident in the establishment of new factories in Senegal, Cameroon, South Africa, Zambia within this year. Chairman Dangote Group, Aliko Dangote, disclosed this to stakeholders at the Dangote Cement 6th Annual General Meeting held in Lagos. Lynn Leneke reports.
On the challenging business environment, Dangote Cement's revenue rose to 1.4%. Most importantly, the group increased its production capacity in Nigeria from 20 to 29 million tons. The group's chairman say is expected to capture the market growth in Nigeria, which is the most attractive in Africa, with an average growth of 10% annually.
We'll continue to work hard. We're opening a lot of other countries, and I hope and pray by next year we'll be able to give more dividend to our shareholders.
We have drawn up a strategy for maximizing exports from Nigeria, so it will improve our capacity utilization. I have the company's prospects for this year is going to be excellent.
Consequent upon the company's performance, the board approved a dividend of 6 naira per 50 kobo share for its shareholders in the financial year ended 2014. This triggered off commendations from shareholders.
6 naira dividend is something that is one of the best dividends in the country.
One thing to do is that to bring more companies so that we can invest into the company.
I hope next year they will pay us more than this.
Officials of Dangote Cement PLC say the company is said to be a global and respected force in cement production, operating modern and efficient plants in the continent. In Lagos, Lynn Leneke, NTA News.
23 heads of customs services, comprising largely of countries of West and Central Africa region, are meeting in Abuja to fashion modalities to strengthen strategies on issues of border security, disease control and travels, including trade facilitation in the region. Bonaventure Wardo has the details.
Directors General of Custom for World Custom Organization of West Africa and Central African Region are holding its conference in Abuja, Nigeria. The conference has the theme Coordinated Border Management and Inclusive Approach for Connecting Stakeholders. Nigeria's Comptroller General of Customs Service, Diko Ndi Abdullahi, says the goal is to coordinate interagency border cooperation to achieve reliable and effective multinational approach on border security.
As we sign the agreement, now we're going to strengthen it that anything that's coming out meant for Nigeria, the custom will escort it to the border officially and hand it over to Nigerian custom.
Guest speaker, Nigeria's finance minister, advised the Regional World Custom Organization to develop joint action plan that will address important challenges facing the region.
Coordinated border management, to me, is essential to manage not just movement of goods and services, but the kinds of health epidemics that we have, earlier speakers have referred to, such as Ebola. The control of insurgencies, such as we have here with Boko Haram, is also a critical area in which coordinated border management is crucial.
My role is to be sure that all the custom administrations of those 23 countries are working to be competitive. My main role is going to develop communication, collaboration, so that all the custom administration will share experiences to succeed, because we have the same challenges.
The Secretary General of World Custom Organization says fighting terrorist organization makes it incumbent on World Custom Organization to keep track of demand and supply chain on arms, ammunition, and the weapon of mass destruction.
That illicit trade such as narcotics, fake medicines, etc., they could be used for funding terrorist activities. So this is the area that customs, well, traditionally have strength, and to fight against terrorist funding and money laundering, to raise the visibility of customs and raise the capacity of customs in fight against border security and terrorism.
He commended Nigeria for developing strong ICT platform for improving performance. In Abuja, Bonaventure Wood, NTA News.
In the meantime, members of organized labor comprising the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress urged all workers to participate in the 2015 Workers' Day celebration scheduled to hold on May 1st across the nation. Amongst the issues to be put before the government is the need for the review of the national minimum wage. Correspondent Emmanuel Ayimiro reports.
An opportunity to revive activities of government, as well as presenting a benchmark on issues affecting the economy, the well-being of workers, and indeed the citizens. Considering this year's May Day theme, which is the working class, democratic consolidation, and economic revival, charting the way forward, organized labor says government must pay all salaries owed before leaving office on May 29th.
You can imagine we have some states in this country that have not paid salaries since October, and this is April. So you don't have any justification to celebrate such governors.
The unions also call for the upward review of the national minimum wage, which is due after every 5 years as stated in the 1999 Constitution.
If you take a look at the level of the depreciation of our currency, you find that the 18,000 minimum wage is no longer anything to write home about. If you do arithmetical calculation, maybe the 18,000 will just be less than 3,000 of what it used to be when we negotiated the minimum wage some years back.
The unions coldly kicked against the intention of Kogi State government to cut down salaries of workers by 40%.
Is it the worker salaries or the salaries of the governor and those in the assemblies? So first and foremost, it is just a joke. There is no way we can accept a situation where somebody will say it's cutting worker salaries when his own salary is intact.
Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
The federal government has launched a national malaria strategic plan for 2014 to 2020. The plan seeks to achieve pre-elimination status and reduce malaria-related deaths to zero by 2020. Correspondent Kemi Fakir reports that Mortein presented its brand at the occasion to mark the 2015 World Malaria Day.
Show that malaria accounts for 60% of all outpatient hospital visits and 30% of hospital admissions in Nigeria. To find a lasting solution to this problem, the federal government, supported by development partners, developed the National Malaria Strategic Plan, which is based on the findings of the Malaria Program Review 2012 to 2013 and WHO recommendations. The document, presented in 5 chapters, is based on some principles which include universal prompt access to effective case management with emphasis on parasitological confirmation of malaria before treatment.
The measures taken has a dual nature, and as such it also has dual responsibility. The first responsibility is that which has to do with the individual. I think at this point in time, our emphasis should be on the issue of personal and environmental hygiene.
Development partners, including the makers of Mountain, in their goodwill messages promised to continue to support the federal government's efforts towards combating malaria scourge.
We are also strongly collaborating with the local state governments as well. We are going together with them to primary healthcare centers. Another 1 million people we are reaching with them. So actually it's a very robust and a very big program that we are doing together. At the same time, we're also going to open markets to educate people, even in the open markets, because even the retailers can be the real change agents to educate people.
So to protect from malaria, you need to clean your houses, you need to get away from stagnant water. You have to spray your house with insecticides which are known to kill 100% mosquitoes.
The theme of the celebration is Invest in the Future, Defeat Malaria, with the national slogan, Your Action Counts. In Abuja, Kemi Fakeye, NTA News.
Renewed impetus on clinical trial as Nigeria inaugurates clinical technical group. And believe it or not, a Nigerian man hurts himself because his talent is not appreciated. This is News Extra on NTA's network service. We'll be right back. Nigerians are renowned for their creative ability and can-do spirit, even in the face of financial hardship. But how does one explain a situation where a man hurts himself because his talents are not appreciated? Frank Azoma Olua met an inventor who chopped off his hand for lack of financial assistance.
Manuel Ishaku from Kebbi State said he invented some aircraft and planting machines for human use. But in the year 2000, his joy as an inventor suddenly disappeared and he decided to chop off his hand. You had an accident?
No, the occurrence is from the view of my objective. That is where I got myself mended.
Ishaku's story, however, is different from that of Idris Hassan, who invented homemade aircraft.
This is my first built homemade aircraft, and I believe you cannot look at it as in homemade. You will consider this aircraft as in standard company made.
And Usman Ahmed, who constructed a helicopter, automatic stove and inverter.
Right from the beginning, I used to use my ideas. So after all, I now started to go through internet for research.
Fortunately for Idris, Kano State Ministry of Science and Technology has piqued interest in his invention.
Government is all out for our youths and it's doing everything possible, and today depicts this.
Another ingenuity of Nigerians is this Nigerian-made limousine on national tour.
Yeah, I'm having a first ride in a limousine car, particularly the one produced in Nigeria. From what the inventor says, this is the 4th trip from Enugu State to Abuja.
These young men could not hide their joy as they hurried to join in the ride. Mr. John Walker is a graduate of mechanical engineering from a German university.
If given the chance, we can go a long way saving our very hard-earned foreign exchange and then doing our limousines here in the country. What we're talking about here is not that the government should start dashing us money. No. What we're saying is let the government challenge us.
The conference on refocusing Nigerians' talents is designed to showcase the potentials of Nigerian inventors.
You see what these young men are doing? If we cannot utilize this potential, they can use it against human. You discover what happened Boko Haram. They started with can. And so we should be careful as a nation to utilize this mind for our own good.
As these young ones grow, the conference seeks to groom some of them as inventors with adequate financial support and without the ugly experience of Emmanuel Ishaku. In Abuja, Franca Uzoma Olwa, NTA News.
In the meantime, stakeholders have called for a more holistic approach in the fight against piracy in the entertainment industry, as well as stiffer penalty against offenders as a way of effectively curbing the menace of copyright piracy in Nigeria. This was the view of participants on NTA's early morning talk show, Good Morning Nigeria, while discussing the effect of copyright piracy on the Nigerian economy. Joy Uzo reports.
Over the years, the copyright of artists, writers, and producers is being infringed upon so brazenly, such that the creative industry is literally bleeding in Nigeria. With about 81 billion naira lost to pirates in the last 20 years, stakeholders in the program decried the unfortunate outright circulation of their works in the market, even before they are officially released or published.
Speaking from personal experience, I have discovered that most of my works are pirated. You do not have any advantage at all, because before your books hit the market, already pirates have already taken over.
But the problem, however, is that with piracy, since it is so much around, it's difficult, I would say, to have a precise idea of the impact that it's having on the economy.
These pirates live among us, because even the ones that sell the films on the streets of Lagos are also pirates.
Alaba International Market is a hub of piracy, and we have over the last few years struck quite a lot at the Alaba International Market, arrested quite a few people there and prosecuted them and actually got them convicted. There's so many piracy endemic areas within Nigeria, Onitsha, Enugu, and even Abuja.
Joy Uzo, NTA News.
Nigeria has taken what could be described as a significant step of becoming a clinical trial hub. It's the inauguration of Nigerian Clinical Trial Technical Working Group by the Director General of NAFDAC, Dr. Paul Ohi, in Abuja. Health correspondent Rabi Abdallah tells us about it.
It is medically referred to as clinical trials, but the fact that animals and human beings referred to as guinea pigs in this procedure underscores good understanding of what clinical trial is all about.
When a drug is discovered, the first thing we do is that test it on animals to make sure that it's not too dangerous for the animals. When we prove that it can cure some certain conditions, then we move it to the next stage. When we feel that it's safe, then we select some people who, and these people volunteer, and they take this drug for free, and while they're taking the drug by doctors to make sure they capture any event that develops. So it is after we have proven on humans the clinical trial is at this stage where you are now giving the drugs to human beings.
With the terms of reference, which include reviewing all current and past efforts at transforming the Nigerian clinical research sector and synchronize them into one, members of the technical working group, drawn from different expert groups, are expected to achieve diverse and well-coordinated approach to bring the country's clinical research sector at par with global practices.
The devastating effect of the Pfizer-Kano trials of 2005 is one that may remain fresh in the minds of many, thereby making them skeptical about clinical trials. But members of the newly inaugurated working group allay the fears of the public in that regard.
Like what happened there? The research community is now, since 2006, we've been doing a lot of capacity building. A better infrastructure is in place, and to ensure that the ethical responsibility of those who are there to make sure that the human subjects that are participating in clinical trial are protected.
The Director General of NAFDAC, Dr. Paul Ohi, who presided over the event, urges Nigerians to see clinical trials as a social good and participating in it a way of contributing to the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of diseases. In Abuja, Rabi Abdallah, NTA News.
And still staying with health matters, the 2014 outbreak of Ebola is believed to be the most severe in the history of the disease, taking into account the number of deaths recorded. And as Africa is on the verge of containing the virus, the Friedrich Ebert Foundation has put together a set of panelists to X-ray activities geared towards fighting the disease in Africa for the past 1 year, with a view to forestall future occurrences. Health correspondent Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju reports.
The Abuja debate chronicled the outbreak of Ebola in West Africa as regards challenges of aid, coordination, response, economic implication on the continent, as well as effort towards reintegrating those most affected back into the society.
Ebola was first recorded in 1976 in the then Zaire. It has also occurred for about 26 times since then. The latest was discovered in Guinea in March 2014 and spread to other countries like Liberia, Sierra Leone, Mali, United States of America, Spain, and Nigeria. Though most of these countries have been declared free of Ebola, the outbreak recorded about 10,899 deaths.
Ebola appeared like a tsunami, and nobody was prepared in a certain sense.
The worst is believed to be behind us, as there are fewer cases of Ebola victims across the continent, and various vaccines are in various stages of research or trial. But the big question is, how can the epidemic be prevented in the nearest future?
We need to also create the environment for research in our region.
I think we need to go back and build our health infrastructure. We should look at the water and health and the sanitation conditions under which our people live.
Panelists noted inadequate health facilities, lack of knowledge as contributory factors in the rapid spread of the disease, adding that the disease enjoyed 55 days of undetected spread and improper diagnosis. Personal and public hygiene are advocated as key to fighting and prevention of disease outbreaks. In Abuja, Rashidat Mustafa Olagunju, NTA News.
An international summit on enhancing legislation for the effective implementation of environmental impact access, EIA, in West Africa has opened in Abuja. National Assembly correspondent Aishatu Zango Abdullah reports that the summit is at the instance of the House Committee on Environment.
Declaring the summit open, Speaker of the House of Representatives Aminu Waziri Tambuwal called on participants to use the opportunity and exchange ideas on how best to evolve strategies for enhancing legislation for the effective implementation of the environmental impact assessment in West Africa.
Environmental degradation arising from the depletion of our natural resource due to our quest for industrialization and urbanization needs to be checkmated, controlled and regulated.
While the EIA Act in Nigeria has been a useful tool, we believe that a lot more could be achieved with enhancement of the existing legislation to tackle some of the challenges that have been encountered in its implementation.
Minister of Environment Laurentia Laraba Malam says damage to the environment by both public and private enterprises calls for a concerted effort and partnership by stakeholders in order to stimulate and compel change in the business environment.
We have to protect the environment because the environment is dear to us, is key in the development of every nation. And when the environment is abused and ignored, then a lot of issues, come up.
Papers were presented by various environment experts. The summit had in attendance representatives from Ghana, the Republic of Mali, Guinea, and Belgium. From the National Assembly, Aishatu Zango Abdullahi, NTA News.
Events from around the world and sports update will be next. Don't go away. Main opposition leader rejects election results that gave the incumbent president a third term, and Nepal's death toll from Saturday's earthquake rise above 5,000. Plus, Russia's unmanned spacecraft delivering supplies to international space stations out of control. For these and more, let's join Chimdimma on the BC.
Togo's main opposition leader is disputing the official presidential election result that declared the incumbent president, Faure Gnassingbé, winner with 59% of the vote. The international observers had described the election as free and fair, and an Egyptian court has sentenced 69 people involved in setting a church on fire in 2013 to life in prison. 2 minors were also jailed for 10 years each. In another development, the United Nations relief materials have started reaching survivors in remote and hard-hit areas of Nepal. But most survivors of the Saturday's earthquake are enraged over the slow pace of aid delivery. Latest report from search and rescue operations in the country has put the number of casualties above 5,000. In the meantime, Indonesia has executed by firing squad 8 out of the 9 convicted smugglers. The 9th woman's execution was performed. However, Australia and Brazil have expressed anger over the execution of their nationals, with Australia recalling its ambassador. That's Global Tidbits. Chimdema Ndibisi, NTA News.
Let's bring you up to date now with some sports news. Nigeria in impressive form and early stage of ITF future champions as gladiators of the big money fight attend rallies in the USA. Amanzi Marcus reports.
Nigeria's Paul Christian defeated Great Britain's Cooper Joe 6-1-6-3 in the first round at the ongoing ITA Futures Tennis Championship in Abuja. In the second round match, Korshunov Stanislavov of Russia secured a hard-fought victory over Zimbabwe's Chanakira Tinotenda, the 2015 season. Chairman of the company, Shehu Dikko, explained that the tight fixtures are meant to cover lost time due to the recent elections.
The league we have this year, the winner is receiving almost 80 million if you win the league, only in total, both in cash, in kind and in other prize monies. It has never happened in Nigerian football.
So when do we expect the season to end?
November, that's what the table is.
After their arrival in Las Vegas, USA on Tuesday, Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. have been participating in rallies attended by their fans. Venue of the fight, the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, is expected to be filled to the brim, but only 500 of the tickets have been offered for sale, despite the capacity of the...
And that's how it's being on News Extra tonight. From everyone here, thank you so much for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.